Okay, good morning and welcome to just Daf It, Daf Yevamos here. We're learning Yevamos, Daf Sadivov today. This is really yesterday's Daf, but I like a little Motzei Shabbos for relaxation. I don't like to be giving shiur on Motzei Shabbos. So we're here Sunday morning. Try to give 2 shiurim today before I pick up my daughter from Gan. Hope you like my tie today. Looking good, right? Nice color. Not such an expensive tie. On the cheaper side, but that's always the balance you have with ties. Meaning, you have a tie that doesn't look so nice, but it's a quality brand. Like a lot of my ties are Tommy Hilfiger ties. I have three of those ties. Some of them are very nice looking. Some of them I have other ties that look better, but they're cheaper brands. So which do you go with? You go with the quality brand or how it looks? It's for you to decide. I personally believe try to mix it up. Unless you can afford to buy all quality ties, like Armani ties. I'll buy an Armani tie. It's like $150 for Armani tie. All right, let's get started. A lot to do today. I'm going to start from the bottom here. We were talking last time about the Paskin, Shmuel Paskin, Lachos like Rabbi Yossi. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi says that there's a knas that if you pasaled, if your brother-in-law went along with your wife to Medina Sayyam, and then you married your wife's sister, who was also the wife of your brother-in-law, he says if you pasal him, your wife can't return to you. So there's 2 explanations, Rabbi Yossi, and the Gemara says Shmuel and Paskin lachag Rabbi Yossi. So let's pick it up from there, about 6 lines. I think we did this, but let's just get into it. Maska Rabbi Yossi, about 6 lines from the bottom. Miyamar Shmuel Haki, the Shmuel really said Allah is like Rabbi Yossi, Vayitmar Yevamos Rav Maharei Keishish. This is a broad statement. We're going to explain it later on. We're not sure what it means. Rav Amar, presumably it means that a Yevama, if she marries Yevama L'Shuk, she goes and marries somebody else. She's like Eishish, just like she committed adultery. The Shmuel Amar Enak Eishish, Shmuel says not adultery. Amar Rav Huna Gon Shekidish Echav Aisha. Rav Huna says the case is where his brother was Makadesh, a woman. And he went away to Medina Sayyam. Now the brother is the brother of the Yavam, obviously. Meaning his first brother, the brother that died, right? The Yavam. He's not the Yavam. He's the original Ach, right? He's Makadish, the woman. He goes to Medina Sayyam. He heard his brother's wife had died. His brother had died. Sorry. He married this woman who his brother's mikudeshes to. The Rav Amar Harei Keishes Vasura. Rav says this creates Isser of Eishes Ish, Asura Yavam. Meaning if the Shomer's Yavam goes and she marries somebody else, so it's like znus, it's like adultery. She's also the Yavam. Shmuel Amar Enak Eishes Ish Shariel Eishes Muteris Shalom. So you see that Shmuel doesn't hold of this Gzeira D'Rabbanan that were worried by Kiddushin that it's a Tanai. The Kiddushin was done on the day Tanai, and it's an invalid Kiddushin. In which case, right, Shmuel, the presumable logic would say, normally Shmuel would say by Kiddushin, if he held like a Rabbi Yossi, that was based on, the second explanation of Rabbi Yossi was based on that people are going to think that the Kiddushin is on the day Tanai. It wasn't a Kiddushin. So here also, it should not be a Kiddushin. And Shmuel says, Einak Eishish v'Sharielei. Rabbi Yossi is holding there is a Gzeira that we're going to think that it wasn't a Tanai, and they're really Mekudeshes. So, how could Shmuel say that? How could Shmuel say, if he's saying Einak Eishish over here by the Yevama, I mean, we assume that there was a Tanai and they weren't Mekudeshes, in which case there's no Znus. By Rabbi Yossi, by passing Rabbi Yossi, apparently held that we are worried about it tonight. How do you know that when Shmuel was like Rabbi Yossi, he was going on the explanation of Rabbi Yossi, which is the second explanation of Rabbi Yossi, which was dependent, the explanation was dependent on whether you consider the Tanai of a Kiddushin, whether Kiddushin was an all-day Tanai, and therefore it was an invalid Kiddushin. We're worried about that. Dima the Rabbi Amikam, he was going on the first explanation of Rabbi Amik's explanation of Rabbi Yossi. Even if he's going on, he paskin like Rabbi Yossi, based on Rabbi Yisrael Nafa's explanation, he might have postel. Maybe he was going on And he's going on the second half of Rabbi Yossi's statement. Dilma top of Sadi Yevamos Aleph. Dilma Eino Posel. Maybe he was going on the first part of Rabbi Yossi. He didn't agree with the second part of Rabbi Yossi. That he says, the first part of Rabbi Yossi says that if you don't aser your brother-in-law and his wife, you're not aser. Inami Imai, D'Isla Rav Huna. How do you know Rav Huna was correct in this case? He says the case is Shekidish Echav, and he went and Lunas Hayam. He's Makadish woman. He went to Lunas Hayam. How do you know that's the case? Udrav Nuna Kamiflik. The Machos Rav and Shmuel over here is better Rav Nuna. The Amar Rav Nuna Shemer is Yavam Shezinsa Asur Liyavama. Right? Shemer is Yavam. She's waiting for Yavam. Right? And she's Mezana. She's Asur Liyavama. In which case there's no Kiddushin. There was no Kiddushin. It's out of Nisuin. Right? And everyone agrees there's no problem with Tanai. We're not going to assume there's a Tanai by Nisuin. She's like an Ashes Ish, and therefore she's going to usher through the Yavam like Znus. You can do Yibam after she's Mizana because it's not really like adultery, and therefore you can do Yibam. Alternatively, the question is whether if she is together with the Yavam the Shuk, the Yavam goes and marries someone from the Shuk, is it work or not? The Rav Amarek Eishish Latapsiba Kiddushin. She's considered like an Eishish by her Zika, and therefore, like Rav said once already, there's no Havaya. Kiddushin is invalid with somebody else. Shmuel says a totally different thing than we're talking about. He says basically that there's Tfizis Kiddushin, like Shmuel said previously in Daf It, Yevamos Shakasis Kiddushin, and it's valid somebody else. Why are they arguing about it over here? They already argued about it on Daf Yud Gimel. He only said it once, but we deduced what their opinion is in the second phrase from their first statement of the Machlokes. The Mishnah. Amrlo Meisa Ishdecha V'nasa Achosa Me'avia. A kind of a strange case over here. This man is obsessed with marrying women. Apparently he thinks they all died, and he accused on marrying sisters. They said your wife went away and he died. He thinks his wife is dead. So therefore he marries her sister, which she's allowed to do once she dies. Ma'avia, they shared it was a paternal sister. Mesa, then he hears that the second wife died. He marries that second sister's maternal sister. So therefore the third wife would have no connection to the first wife, only the second wife. Mesa, and then he hears the third wife died. The third wife's sister, her paternal sister, he marries her. Mesa, and then here's the fourth wife, he marries the maternal sister of the fourth wife. And he finds that all the Edom, they're all lying to him. All of them are alive. He could remain married to the first, third, and fifth, which are not related to each other, not sisters. Saying, and if he were to die, right, without children from them, so therefore a Yibam or Chalitza what would be in effect? Yibam Chalitza still apply to the first, third, and fifth. So therefore, the brothers, if they did Yibam Chalitza, it would part of the stars, the co-wives. Asr B'Shnei Revius, the second and fourth are Asr because technically he was married to the first and third, and their sister the second and fourth. So the Kedushin is not Tosin by you can't marry your wife's sister. It's not Tfis's Kedushin. Therefore, you're Asr in both of them. And therefore, there's no Ve'en Bias Achlan B'Teres Arasa. Therefore, there's no contract Yibam Chalitza. So Bia, but the brother is not going to part of the sorrow. Let's say he actually, the first one did die, and then he was born the sister after the first one died. Mutter b'shnei over Revius, and then he's mutter the second and the fourth, which are not related. Again, the second one was a valid one, and therefore the third one is invalid because of the second one. The fourth one was a valid one because they're not fourth and second are not sisters at all. And the fifth one is invalid because she's a sister of the fourth one, so therefore it's basically the same idea. Totally different halacha. Who posted the achin, or 9-year-old boy? He's one of the brothers. His brother died. His brother lives over a 9-year-old. One of his brothers is 9-year-old in one day. So we learned in other places the bia of, even though a katan is not, his bia is not normally a bia, but a 9-year-old is capable of producing zera in most cases. Therefore, we treat halachically like a bia. We'll discuss this in Ben Sion, what's exactly the nature of bia ben teisha yom echad. Who posts like the achans? Therefore, if he has, let's say, there's numerous brothers that are waiting to yibam, he's one of them, and he jumped ahead. Normally the older brothers do it. He jumped ahead and does it. He's Boel, the Yevama. He passes her for the other brothers, right? So none of them can do Yibum Chalitza with her. Achin Bosan al Yado, and again they also passel him. Meaning if they do, we'll see not just Bia but also Maimer and Ger Chalitza. They passel him. Elahu posel Tchila Achin posel Tchila V'sof. There's difference in him. He only passes the beginning. The Achin passel. We'll see what this means later on in the beginning and the end. Kate said, he passes the brothers. If the brothers or one of the brothers was Boal her first, also, even they didn't do Bia, they just did Maimer, gave her Kedushin, or gave her a get, or the Chalitza, Posan al Yodo. That's really what the meaning of the Sof means. They passel in any of these ways from the first brother, from the Bein Tesha of Yom Echad, of doing Yibum. He can't do Yibum anymore. Gemara, Atu Kulu Lav Lachar. First, they have a statement in the Gemara is analyzing the first part of the Mishnah. Whereas the Atu Kulu Lav Lachar Misa Rishonin. Right, we said a case where he married 5 women, and then he thought all 5 of them were alive. Then this is a second case where one of them actually died. So where I asked, Atu Kulu Lav Lachar Misa Rishonin. In the first case, he's also married 5 of them. Didn't he marry them after they died? So Amar Rav Sheish Lachar Misas Rishona Vadai. No, in the first case, he married 5 women. He thought they were dead, and it turned out none of them were dead. In the second case, one of them actually died, and that was for sure died, and that's why the second and fourth were teres, third and fifth are roster. Bein Tesha Shanim v'Yom Echad. Bein Tesha Shanim v'Yom Echad. Tchila Apostle, B'sof L'Apostle. That's what it says in the Mishnah. Athani Rav Zvid Rav Shai. Rav Zvid said the name of Rav Shai. Osa Maimer Yivim Tov. Achach Ba Achav Shu Bein Tesha Shanim Yom Echad. Ale Apostle. Let's say one of the brothers do Maimer, he does Kedushin, an older brother, he's a bar mitzvah boy, or older. And then Ba'echav, his brother that's 9 years old on one day, comes Apostla, he's postal him, meaning the person does Maimer, there's Kedushin, it's really a hechsher to do Yibam, you do that before you do the Yibam. He ruins it for his brother who did the Maimer, so you see at the end he could postal. Amri Bia Apostle Afilu B'sof. So my answer is Bia, even if he's Bein Tesha Yom Echad, it apostles even at the end. Maimer, Tchila Apostle, B'sof L'Apostle. The Maimer of a katan, a 9-year-old boy, the beginning it apostles, only does it first. B'sof L'Apostle does Maimer after a first brother does something else, it doesn't work. Well, Bia Afilu B'sof Apostle, but the Bia, his cohabitation with the Yevamos, even after his brother did Maimer, it would apostle for his brother. The words of V'Hakasani Al Shu Postal Tchila V'Hein Tchila V'Sof. Right, the Mishnah is talking about Bia, and it says he apostles at the beginning, but not at the sof. So what are we just saying? It's obviously not like what we're saying. The Mishnah says, Kate, I've been that's what we're talking. The Mishnah says Bia, not Maimer. The Mishnah says, I have to fix up the Mishnah. It was missing a part. The other brothers passed the beginning and the end. Maimer. That's only going to Maimer. Bia, his Bia is passed at the end. Kate said. If he does Bia, he passes the brothers, what he did at the beginning or the end. Well, me is slay Maimer class, and that is a fundamental question. Does he have Maimer at all? Maybe it's the Maimer Kali de Aachen. If he does Maimer before the Aachen, it passes for the other brothers. He has Maimer. Tanya, who postel b'davar echad, Aachen postel al yadav arba dvarim. He can only pastel with one thing, namely a Bia. And the other Aachen or Gedolim could pastel with any of the 4 things, right? Get, Chalitza, Maimer, or Bia. Who posted the Aachen but Bia? Aachen posted that with Bia, but Maimer, Get, or Chalitza. So where says Bia the positive and Tchila Masof Psikale. So my answer is really technically he could pastel the Maimer. Bia, which is effective to pastel both in the beginning and the end, that's what it recorded in this brisa. Maimer, the B'tchila possible Sof L'Apostle. Maimer is postal for a 9-year-old kid if he does it first. But therefore, it's not psikal. It doesn't always work. If it does at the end, doesn't work. Therefore, it didn't write in the price. But really, Maimer B'tchila would passel even by a 9-year-old. It's Barnami Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel Yesh Lo Get. Rav Yehuda is the name of Shmuel. He has a get. Rav Tachlifa Bar Ravimi Yesh Lo Maimer. He has Maimer, meaning like corroborating what we said before that if he does a B'tchila, the 9-year-old has a get and he has Maimer. Tanya Mihaki Yesh Lo Get Yesh Lo Maimer. Divrei Meir. He says he has both. If Savrei Meir Yesh Lo Get, he has a get. Right? We mentioned Maimer before. Now we're saying even a get, it works. He gives a get to the Yevamos. He passes her for the Achin. Tanya Asu Bias Bein Tesh like Maimer Gadol. They made the Bia of a 9-year-old like a Maimer of a Gadol. Remeir Omer Asu Chalitzas Bein Tesh like a get a Gadol. They made the Chalitza of a 9-year-old like the gadol giving a get. When you say listening to Gito, why do I say it made it like a get of a gadol? And say like Gito, if his get really worked to pass over the brothers, say the chalitza is like a get. Amar Hun Bari Rav Yeshua Islay Vizuter. He has the koach to give a get, but it's effective, but not as effective as other things. According to Gamliel, Amar and get achar get. When you have two brothers, two gedolim, and one gives a get, and the other one gives a get afterwards, there's no effectiveness of the second get. Hani mili begodol achar godol. That's a godol v'katan achar katan. 9-year-old after 9-year-old, or a godol after a godol. A godol achar katan mahani. But a godol, if a katan, meaning he gives a get, which is halfway effective, right, the godol then does a get, or he does mimer, so that overrides the weakened get of the katan. But Rabbanan Amri yesh get achar get. Going to hold that there is significance by gedolim of a get after a get. That's when a got aval katan achar gadol lo mahani. That according to Rabbanan, that's what Shmuel is saying over here, that the katan, the 9-year-old's get after the gadol is ineffective. If it was after the katan's get, it would be effective, or a gadol after a gadol. But it's like a get which works partially, halfway, but not fully. So it would come out that a get works partially, and mimer. An a bia works sort of fully, and a mimer and get will say works partially. I have to explain this more about the nature of the bia of a 9-year-old in the unit Ben Sion. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's go on to Amud Beis. Amud Beis. The Mishnah says, "Bein Tei Shana Yom Echad Shabal Yevimto." Again, it's a 9-year-old kid. I don't know. He's very into the bia over here. He wants to do bia with his Yevamos. And then he has another. They have two brothers, a 9-year-old, two 9-year-old brothers, they're twins. Posal yado. I mean, the second one ruined it for the first one. Technically, if you do bia as a 9-year-old, right, it's not effective to you. It's not a gadol, but you started. It's like a tchila skin. When you become a gadol, you can finish it off and do another bia. Rosh Shimon Omer, unless someone passel. Rosh Shimon Omer lo pos. Rosh Shimon says the second one doesn't passel. Say a 9-year-old bal yivim to v'achar bal sarasa. Right, you're not allowed to do yibam bayis echad bona and lo bona shtei batim. You can't be bona shtei batim. So therefore he's ba al sarasa. So post al yidei atzma. He passes it for himself. He can't do yibam with either one when he comes a gadol. Shimon Omer lo post. Shimon says it's ineffective. The second bia, he can still do yibam with the first one. Tanya, the Raisa says Amar lehem Rabbi Shimon l'chamim. Shimon says l'chamim in bia rishona bia. If technically the bia of a 9-year-old is a bia shnei and a bia, obviously the second one is not considered a bia. In bia rishona ain't a bia. If you consider a 9-year-old's bia not to be a bia shnia nami ain't a bia. It's not going to be effective. Meaning that if it's really a bia, so then the second one is like bia achar bia wouldn't have effective, right? If you do yibam, ain't achar bia klum. Ain't achar yibam once yibam is consummated. So it's not. Rosh Shimon, the Rabbanan obviously don't hold that way. They hold that obviously the bia of a bein ted does not have the effectiveness of yibam. We know it doesn't have. You can't consummate yibam through that, but you could partially consummate yibam. We'll get to that. Niyot ben Sion. Basis Loka ben Azai. Mishzah ben Azai. Time ben Azai. Omer Yesh Maimer Achar Maimer b'Shnei Yivmin. Ben Azai is an interesting sheet that we learned in Parakar Gamaliel and Daf Nun Dalet. Nun Dalet, somewhere in between there. Yesh Maimer Achar Maimer b'Shnei Yivmin. V'Yoma Achas. Ein Maimer Achar Maimer b'Shnei Yevamos Yom Echad. Ben Azai makes a chiluk. He says there is effectiveness to a Maimer Achar Maimer with two Yavams, two brothers. Yoma Achas. They each do Maimer to him. So therefore they could pass on each other because the Koach gave the Koach to each Yavam to do one Maimer. When there's two co-wives and only one Yavam, he does Maimer to both, and the second Maimer is ineffective according to Ben Azai because they only gave the Koach Maimer one Maimer to each brother, and he lost that Koach over here. So therefore he can't do it. But our Mishnah doesn't make that chiluk. Our Mishnah either all or nothing. Reb Shimon says ineffective, and the Chum say effective. Mishnah, bein teisha shana v'yom echad shaba al yevimto omeis. A 9-year-old, he's bal yevimto, and then he dies. Choletzes v'lomis Yevamos. So, he died, right? Choletzes v'lomis Yevamos. The woman, she is subject to be yibam or chalitza by the other brother. She does chalitza, not yibam. Nasa isha umeis harei zeptura. If he married a woman and he died, she's ptura because he didn't really marry her. 9-year-old can't marry someone. If he was the original brother, right? She's ptura min achlisa yibum. It didn't take effect. It's not a real marriage. Bein here shanim v'yomecha shabal yivimto. He was together with his Yevamos. Hegdil nasa isha acheres. When he got older, he became 13 years old in one day, and had 2 pubic hairs. Nasa isha acheres. He married a different woman. Umeist, and then he dies. Imlo yada sarishon mishahigdil. He didn't consummate his yibum with the first one. Harishon chalazim. She partially, the bia of a yavam is like mimer begadol, like we learned. It has this halfway status of mimer. Therefore, she can't do yibum. She do chalitza. Vashniya o chalazim zivem. The second one, right? He died, right? So he's married to her. So he can do yibum. She was married to a full brother, an old brother. Shimon Omer miyavim leizer sheyir sev chalitza shniya. Shimon says, the brother of this boy who became a gadol, right, who did yibum as a 9-year-old, and he married someone as a gadol. The brother of this brother, his 9-year-old brother, could do yibum to either one or chalitza, and does chalitza to the second one. Echad shehu bein teisham yom echad echad shehu ben esrim shalahiv shtei saros. It doesn't matter whether you're a child who's 9-year-old, you're not a gadol, or you're 20-year-old. If you didn't bring saros, we talk about being a sris before in Parak Arel, you're considered not someone who's capable of having children. You remain a katan until you bring shtei saros. So therefore, your bia is treated like the bia of a 9-year-old until you bring shtei saros. The Gemara says, "Amar Rava, Hadam Rabbanan Zika Shnei Yivim in Michlatz Chaltza Yivim Lam. The Rabbanan argued on Rav Shimon, and they said, "Don't say it's only a case where there's another woman, a co-wife over there, because it's a gzeira. There might be a problem with the sarah. The ha-ha-ha lekat sarah. Here in our Mishnah, there's no sarah. Michlatz Chaltza Yivim Lam. Still, we say the second brother, the brother of this 9-year-old who became a gadol, could do chalitza and not yibum. Nasa isha o meis tanina laha. Tana Rabbanan showed the v'kadash nasu meisun nishosayim turas ben chalitza ben yibum. Right? If he married a different woman, so therefore he's a shoter akatan. He's a 9-year-old. In one day is kibbul of bia, but his nisuin is not a nisuin according to anybody. It's not an effective nisuin. Maybe he could do mimer, but he can't make any nisuin, and therefore he was never married to them, and there's no yibum or chalitza. Ben teisha shana mehish hegdel v'yasu bias ben teisha kimaymer magadol. Why don't they make, right, this weird case where he's a 9-year-old, does yibum to one as a 9-year-old, then he becomes a gadol and marries another woman. Why don't they make bias ben teisha kimaymer magadol? They make it like a mimer. But tilcha sarah mi yibum, and let her push away the sarah. His call. He married another woman. He's gadol. And therefore, he can't. His brother can't do yibum. Amar Rav lo asu bias ben teisha kimaymer magadol. He says regarding this, everyone agrees bias ben teisha is like mimer magadol. Regarding when there's a sarah, they didn't make it like mimer magadol. Shmuel amar asu ba'asu. Shmuel says even in this case they did. Asu ba'asu. They did make it over here, and should push away the sarah. Yasu tnahi. So how do you explain our Mishnah? The Mishnah says they can do yibum. Where says Tanahi, it's Machlokes Tanoim. Hach Tana Darba Achin. Earlier we learned Daf Lamed Aleph. Gazer Mishum Sarah. Well, they did make a gzeira because of the sarah. Ashmina Megadol v'huadin bekatan. There, the halakha was talking about a gadol, right? And here we're teaching by a katan also. Hayda Amar Gadol Mishum Megadol Kai. And the reason they taught about gadol is because that's the Mishnayos they were talking about a gadol. The Haytana the Hacha, but our Mishnah over here, Svir Le Asu. The lo gazer mishum sarah. They made it that they made the mimer bein teisha like the bias bein teisha like mimer gadol. Lo gazer mishum sarah. They weren't gazer mishum sarah. Earlier in the Gemara on Daf Lamed Aleph, they were gazer mishum sarah. Here they weren't gazer mishum sarah. V'shnim bekatan within megadol. It says by a katan and the same thing by a gadol. Hide the kamar bekatan the bekatan kai. So over here that the reason they can marry is because of Malchus Tanoim or Malchus Tanoim. This Tana apparently holds that it's okay, and they weren't gozer the sarah, so therefore you could do yibum chalitza. The Mishnah earlier says that it can't do it. They were gozer by sarah. It's Malchus Tanoim whether they're gozer because of the sarah or not in this case or not. The Mishnah says over here that you could do yibum chalitza. They weren't gozer. The reason we're talking about a katan is because that's what we're dealing with over here. All these Mishnayos are talking about a katan bein teisha. Azar Lezer came. Amar l'shmaisav in Russia. He taught this teaching what we just taught in the base medrash. Amar l'mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. He didn't say the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was the one who says Asu v'Asu, like Shmuel, Asu v'Asu, that Asu ben Bias ben Tet Teisha Shanim Yom Echad, K'mayim Rabbi Gadol. Even in this case, the pater to make sure there's no yibum over here. Shama Rabbi Yochanan Ikvid. Rabbi Yochanan heard that Rabbi Lezer was darshing his name, and he didn't say his name. He got angry. All the Gabi Rabbi Amin Riasi went to placate Rabbi Yochanan. Amrulei lo kachayam ma'aseh beis hakneses Tveria. This happened already in the Beis Knesset in Tveria, but Nagashish Barosha Gluster. There was a teaching about this regarding Hilchos Shabbos, about a lock to a door that has a head at a knob at the head of it. They got so angry about this machlokes, all right, about being who. It wasn't about who they were attributing in that case. They're just arguing about the Torah. At Shakara Sefer Torah b'chamsan, because they were so angry, they ended up tearing a Sefer Torah. So he's saying, but don't be so angry. Karus Akadaya, the Gemara first interjects. They really ripped the Sefer Torah on purpose. Because they weren't careful, being angry, they weren't careful. The Sefer Torah fell and it broke. Vayasham Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma. Yosef ben Kisma was there in the shul. Amar Tmiani im lo yeh beis hakneses zu avodos kochavim. Because based on what happened, this shul is going to turn into a church. V'chein hu hava. Ended up turning into a church. Hadar ikbid tzvei. He got even more angry. Amar chavrusa nami oligabe. They're treating me Rami and Rasi, who was Talmida Rabbi Yochanan. They're acting like my friends, that they can just give explanations like this. Yaakov Bar Idi, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi came. He wanted to calm Rabbi Yochanan down. Amar like Asher Siva Hashem es Moshe Avdo Kein Siva Moshe es Yoshua. It's like Hashem commanded Moshe, so to Moshe commanded Yoshua. V'chein asa Yoshua. Yoshua did everything Moshe told him. Anything Hashem told Moshe, Yoshua did. Whenever Yoshua would teach Klal Yisrael, you think he would say, this is what Moshe Rabbeinu said? El Yoshua, Yoshua v'dorish dam. He would say, this is the halacha. I call Yodin, Moshe. Everyone knew that he was a Talmud of Moshe. Where he got? He only got it from Moshe. After Rabbi Lezer Talmidcha, Yoshua v'dorish dam. I call Yodin kishelcha. Even Rabbi Lezer, your student, Rabbi Yochanan, who was darshaning, everyone knows everything he gets is from you. Amar lehem, mipnei ma'yetem Yodin lefayis k'ben idi. So Rabbi Yochanan, his anger was placated at that point, and he said to Rabbi Amin Rasi, "Why don't you know how to pacify me, like Ben Idi, like who was able to do it?" Rabbi Yochanan, my time, accompanied Klai. Why in the first place was he so angry that they didn't say his name? It says in the pasuk, "I'll live in your tent for multiple worlds." How could a person live in two worlds at the same time? David says to Hashem, top of Sadi Zayin and Aleph, Shiyomru, Davar Shmuel Pi, Ba'olam Hazeh. I hope even after I die, they'll quote me in Olam Hazeh. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan B'Shem Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan himself said the name of B'Shem Yochai. Kol Mechacham Shalom Davar Shmuel Pi Ba'olam Hazeh. If anyone Talmud Chacham is quoted in this world, even after he dies, Sosef Dovos Bekever, his lips move. They start moving, mouthing something in the grave. I'm Rabbi Yisrael ben Zeira, V'Yitem Hashem ben Nezira, Mikro, what's the pasuk? V'Chichet Kiyin Atov, Holech Ledodi Lemesharim, Dodi Sivsei Yishanim. Right, your palate is like good wine, goes to my beloved one. Lemesharim, Dodi Sivsei Yishanim. It causes movements of the lips of the people that are sleeping. Kikomer Shalanavim. It's compared to a very hot cluster of grapes. When a person puts his finger on it, it's very hot, so it penetrates the liquid of the grapes. The juice comes out very easily. So to Talmidei Chacham also, when they die, they're like this hot cluster of grapes, and once you press on them, meaning you quote their name in Olam Hazeh, so therefore it causes their lips to move. Why is it so significant that their lips are moving? I don't know how that helps you after your death. I don't know why that's a good thing. Really don't know. I mean, he obviously wanted his lips to move after death. Does it ease your pain after death? Take you out of Gehenna? I don't know exactly, but that'll be for a different time. We'll have to analyze that. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next.